Your brain runs the show. It is the most powerful, complex, and influential organ in your body. Every thought you have, every feeling you experience, every decision you make, and every relationship you build begins in your brain. It is the command center that orchestrates who you are and how you function in the world. When your brain works right, you work right. When it is troubled, you are more likely to experience difficulties in every area of life. This idea may sound simple, but when you understand it deeply, it changes how you live, eat, think, and care for yourself. The quality of your life is directly linked to the quality of your brain function. Your brain is only about 2% of your body's weight, but it uses about 20% of the energy your body produces every single day. It is a hungry, energy-demanding organ that thrives on proper care and nourishment. When your brain is healthy, your mind is clear, your mood is stable, and your focus is sharp. You make thoughtful choices, resist temptations more easily, and stay motivated to reach your goals. But when your brain is under stress, inflamed, or deprived of healthy nutrients, everything becomes harder. You may find yourself more irritable, forgetful, distracted, or anxious without even realizing that these struggles are symptoms of an overworked, undernourished brain. Imagine your brain as a master conductor in charge of a vast symphony. When all the sections of the orchestra are in tune, the music flows beautifully. You feel balanced, confident, and alive. But when one section falls out of rhythm, say your prefrontal cortex becomes sluggish, or your limbic system is overactive, the whole symphony suffers. The music of your life feels chaotic, disorganized, and offbeat. That's what happens when your brain isn't working at its best. The problem is not just psychological. We know this from decades of brain imaging studies. Through SPECT scans, we can actually see how different areas of the brain function under various conditions. Healthy brains show full, balanced activity with strong blood flow throughout. Troubled brains, on the other hand, often show areas of low activity, indicating poor blood flow and reduced communication between regions. When someone struggles with anxiety, depression, addiction, or memory loss, these patterns become visible. The brain tells the story long before symptoms show up in daily life. That's why I often say, if you don't look, you don't know. A healthy brain is the foundation for success in every area. Your relationships, your work, your physical health, even your sense of purpose. People with better brain function make better decisions. They manage emotions more effectively, experience more empathy, and recover faster from setbacks. They also age more gracefully because their brains stay strong and resilient over time. Unfortunately, many people don't think about brain health until they lose it. They treat the brain as if it were separate from the body, but it's not. Every bite of food, every hour of sleep, every stressful thought either fuels or depletes your brain. When you begin to see your brain as the most valuable asset you own, your choices start to change. You become more intentional about what you eat, how you rest, and how you manage your emotions. You realize that protecting your brain means protecting your entire life. You learn that the brain is not fixed. It can grow, adapt, and prepare itself throughout your lifetime. This process, known as neuroplasticity, allows you to rewire old habits and create new patterns of thought and behavior. It means that no matter your past, your brain can always be better tomorrow than it is today. Your brain truly runs the show, and when you take care of it, everything else follows. A healthy brain leads to a healthy body, a stronger mind, and a more meaningful life. It changes how your brain functions at the most fundamental level. The good news is that your brain can recover when you reduce sugar intake and stabilize blood glucose levels through protein, healthy fats, and fiber. The prefrontal cortex starts to work better again. Focus improves, cravings decrease, and mood becomes more stable. It's as if the fog lifts and the brain's brakes begin to work again, allowing you to take back control of your thoughts and behaviors. The truth is, sugar doesn't just sweeten your food, it silently steals your brain's balance and power. Critic. The more you consume, the less control you have. But once you stop letting sugar call the shots, your brain begins to heal, Your focus returns and your natural energy comes back to life. The addiction effect of sugar is one of the most underestimated dangers in modern life. Most people think of addiction as something that happens with drugs, alcohol, or gambling. But the truth is that sugar can trigger the same powerful chemical responses in the brain. Every time you eat something sweet, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that signals pleasure and reward. This release creates a surge of good feelings and energy, and for a brief moment, everything feels better. But just like with addictive substances, that pleasure is short-lived. When the dopamine levels drop, the brain begins to crave the same rush again, pushing you to reach for more sugar. Over time, this pattern becomes deeply wired into your brain's reward system, making sugar one of the most socially accepted yet neurologically addictive substances on the planet. The problem is not just psychological, it's biological. The human brain evolved to seek high-energy foods when they were rare, as a survival mechanism. But in today's world, sugar is everywhere, and the brain's ancient wiring can't keep up. When you consume sugar frequently, your dopamine receptors start to downregulate. That means your brain becomes less sensitive to dopamine, so it takes more sugar to achieve the same feeling of pleasure. This is the same process we see in people addicted to cocaine, nicotine, or alcohol. It's called tolerance, and it's the hallmark of addiction. As tolerance grows, satisfaction fades and cravings intensify. You may find yourself eating sweets even when you're not hungry, simply to chase the feeling that your brain now struggles to produce on its own. SPECT imaging studies show how this plays out in real time. In people who consume large amounts of sugar or who struggle with food addictions, scans often reveal reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for impulse control, focus, and decision-making. When this region of the brain is underactive, you are more likely to act on urges rather than logic. It becomes harder to resist cravings because the very part of the brain designed to say no is being turned down by the substance you're trying to resist. Sugar literally disables your self-control. That's why people often describe feeling powerless around sweets. They're fighting a brain that's been chemically rewired against them. This cycle of craving, consumption, and crash also affects mood and mental health. Each spike in blood sugar produces a short-lived high, followed by a sharp drop that leaves you feeling tired, anxious, or irritable. Over time, this roller coaster can contribute to emotional instability and depression. The brain becomes dependent on sugar to feel normal, and without it, people may experience withdrawal, like symptoms, fatigue, headaches, and irritability. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a brain that has been trained to depend on a quick chemical fix instead of balanced energy and natural neurotransmitter function. The more sugar a person consumes, the more other areas of life begin to suffer. Concentration declines, motivation drops, and emotional resilience weakens. In many ways, the brain becomes a slave to the next sugar hit. Studies even show that the same brain regions that light up when drug addicts see images of their substance of choice also activate when frequent sugar consumers see images of desserts or sugary drinks. This proves that the compulsion is not imagined, it's neurologically real. Yet the hopeful part of this story is that the brain is resilient. When you stop feeding the addiction and stabilize your blood sugar through healthy food choices, your dopamine receptors begin to reset. Cravings start to fade, and the brain's reward system gradually returns to normal functioning. The prefrontal cortex becomes more active again, allowing you to regain self-control and make clear, rational choices. People often report feeling calmer, more focused, and more emotionally balanced within weeks of cutting out excess sugar. The addiction effect of sugar is a perfect example of how something small can take over something powerful. It teaches us that brain health is not just about avoiding big toxins. It's about understanding how everyday habits shape the way your brain works. Sugar's hold over the brain is real, but it is also reversible. With awareness, discipline, and better nutrition, you can retrain your brain to crave health, not harm. Inflammation and energy drain are two of the most damaging effects sugar has on the brain and yet most people don't realize how deeply they are connected. When you consume sugar, it doesn't just give you a burst of sweetness. It triggers a cascade of biological reactions that affect nearly every cell in your body, including the neurons in your brain. One of the first things that happens is a spike in blood glucose levels, which forces your pancreas to release insulin. Insulin's job is to help move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells for energy. But when this happens repeatedly, especially with diets high in refined sugar and processed carbohydrates, your body begins to lose its sensitivity to insulin. This condition, known as insulin resistance, not only increases your risk for diabetes, it also starves your brain of the steady, balanced energy it needs to function optimally. Your brain is the most energy-demanding organ in your body. Even though it makes up only about 2% of your total body weight, it uses around 20% of your daily energy. It needs a consistent supply of fuel, primarily in the form of glucose, but it needs that fuel to arrive in a stable and controlled manner. When your blood sugar spikes and crashes throughout the day, the brain experiences that same instability. These fluctuations can lead to mental fatigue, difficulty concentrating, mood swings, and even symptoms that resemble anxiety or depression. Over time, the brain becomes less efficient at using glucose, leading to sluggishness and cognitive decline. What makes this worse is the inflammation that sugar promotes. Every time you eat something high in sugar, your body produces molecules called advanced glycation end products, or AGE. These compounds are formed when sugar binds to proteins or fats in your body, creating oxidative stress that damages tissues and cells. The immune system responds by releasing inflammatory chemicals in an attempt to repair the damage. This is fine when it happens occasionally, but when it becomes chronic, as it does in people who consume sugar daily, it turns into low-grade systemic inflammation that attacks the brain's delicate network. Inflammation in the brain disrupts communication between neurons, damages synapses, and reduces the production of key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. It can also damage the blood-brain barrier, the protective shield that keeps harmful substances out. Once that barrier becomes leaky, toxins and inflammatory molecules can enter the brain more easily, amplifying fatigue, brain fog, and emotional instability. This is one reason people who eat a lot of sugar often report feeling exhausted and unfocused, despite consuming enough calories. Their energy isn't lacking, it's just trapped in a cycle of inflammation and poor regulation. SPECT scans make this process visible. Brains affected by high sugar intake often show decreased activity in areas linked to focus, memory, and mood regulation. Blood flow is reduced, meaning less oxygen and fewer nutrients reach the neurons. This pattern is similar to what we see in aging or neurodegenerative diseases, which is why chronic high sugar consumption is associated with an increased risk of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Some researchers have even begun to refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes because of the strong link between insulin resistance and brain degeneration. On a day-to-day level, this energy drain manifests as mental fog, forgetfulness, and difficulty sustaining attention. You might notice that after a sugary snack, you feel a quick burst of energy followed by a sharp drop in motivation. That's not coincidence. It's the result of your brain struggling to stabilize after being flooded with glucose. Over time, these highs and lows take a toll on your ability to think clearly, manage stress, and stay emotionally balanced. The good news is that the brain can recover when inflammation is reduced and blood sugar is stabilized. By cutting back on refined sugars and eating foods that promote steady energy, such as lean proteins, healthy fats, and fiber-rich vegetables, you allow your brain to function in a more balanced state. Increased blood flow brings oxygen and nutrients back to damaged areas, and inflammation begins to subside. People often describe feeling sharper, calmer, and more energetic once they break free from the constant cycle of sugar highs and crashes. Inflammation and energy drain may start silently, but they gradually erode the foundation of mental clarity, emotional stability, and long-term cognitive health. Understanding how sugar fuels both processes is one of the first steps toward reclaiming your brain's vitality and giving it the steady, clean energy it was designed to run on. The human brain has an incredible ability to heal itself when given the right environment. For years, scientists believed that once the brain was damaged, recovery was impossible. But advances in neuroscience, along with brain imaging techniques like SPECT scans, have completely changed that belief. The truth is, the brain is remarkably adaptable. It can grow new connections, form new neural pathways, and even restore activity in areas that once appeared sluggish or underactive. This process, known as neuroplasticity, proves that the brain is not fixed. It is dynamic, resilient, and capable of transformation. When people make consistent changes in their diet, lifestyle, and thinking patterns, the brain responds. It begins to heal. One of the most powerful ways to start this healing process is through nutrition. A diet high in sugar and processed foods reduces blood flow and increases inflammation, both of which suppress brain activity. But when someone eliminates added sugars and starts consuming brain-healthy foods, like omega-3 fatty acids from fish and vitamins from leafy greens, SPECT scans show noticeable improvements in brain function. Areas that were once dim or underactive begin to light up with renewed energy. Blood flow increases, neurons communicate more efficiently, and people report better focus, memory, and emotional stability. Food truly is medicine for the brain. And what you eat has the power to either harm or heal your most vital organ. Exercise also plays a crucial role in brain recovery. When you move your body, you increase blood flow, oxygen, and nutrient delivery to the brain. Physical activity stimulates the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a compound that acts like fertilizer for neurons. It helps brain cells grow stronger, prepare themselves, and create new connections. Even light daily exercise, such as walking, stretching, or yoga, can enhance cognitive function and protect against decline. On brain scans, people who maintain active lifestyles often show higher overall brain activity and better preservation of the memory centers, particularly in the hippocampus. This means that movement isn't just good for your body, it's one of the most powerful tools for keeping your brain young and resilient. Mental and emotional habits also influence the brain's ability to heal. Chronic stress, negative thinking, and unresolved trauma keep the brain in a constant state of high alert, releasing stress hormones that damage brain cells over time. But practices like mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, and therapy help calm the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain. This allows for better communication between the emotional and rational parts of the brain, restoring balance and clarity. SPECT imaging studies have shown that meditation increases activity in the prefrontal cortex and improves blood flow to areas responsible for focus and emotional regulation. As stress decreases, healing accelerates. Sleep is another essential part of brain recovery. During deep sleep, the brain performs a kind of housekeeping. It clears out metabolic waste, repairs damaged cells, and consolidates memories. Without adequate sleep, the brain's healing process slows down dramatically. People who consistently sleep well not only think more clearly, but also show better emotional control and decision-making ability. Rest isn't a luxury for the brain, it's a necessity for healing and optimal performance. Perhaps the most inspiring part of all this is that improvement can happen at any age. The brain you have today is not the brain you're stuck with. People who once struggled with brain fog, anxiety, or poor concentration often experience dramatic turnarounds once they commit to brain-healthy habits. SPECT scans taken before and after lifestyle changes tell a clear story. Better nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress management can literally bring the brain back to life. Function improves, mood stabilizes, and cognitive performance strengthens. The transformation is visible both on the scan and in daily life. Healing the brain is not a quick fix. It's a process of consistency and care. Every positive change you make compounds over time, building a stronger and more resilient brain. The key is understanding that your brain is not your destiny. It's your responsibility. When you feed it right, move it daily, and protect it from stress and toxins, it rewards you with clarity, focus, joy, and vitality. The brain can heal, and when it does, your entire life begins to transform right along with it. Loving your brain begins with understanding that every choice you make is either helping or harming it. The brain is your control center, the organ that allows you to think, feel, love, create, and experience life. It is also incredibly sensitive to what you feed it, both physically and mentally. Every bite of food you take sends information to your brain, influencing its chemistry, energy levels, and long-term health. When you choose foods that nourish the brain, you enhance focus, memory, and mood. But when you fill it with sugar, processed fats, and refined carbohydrates, you inflame and weaken it. Loving your brain means making daily choices that support its strength and vitality rather than drain it. One of the most powerful ways to love your brain is by avoiding what I call the white killers: white flour and processed white rice. These foods cause rapid spikes in blood sugar followed by steep crashes, leaving your brain struggling for stable energy. Over time, this roller coaster of glucose and insulin harms the delicate blood vessels that supply oxygen to the brain. Reduced blood flow means less nourishment, and the result is sluggish thinking, memory problems, and mood instability. When SPECT scans are taken of people who consume diets high in processed carbohydrates, their brains often show lower activity and poor circulation, especially in areas tied to judgment and decision-making. Replacing these foods with whole grains, colorful vegetables, and protein-rich meals can reverse much of that damage, restoring vitality and balance to the brain. Nourishing foods don't just prevent decline, they actively boost brain performance. Foods like blueberries, walnuts, salmon, avocado, and leafy greens increase blood flow and provide the antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids the brain needs to fight inflammation and build strong neural connections. These nutrients support the growth of new brain cells and enhance communication between existing ones. In people who adopt diets rich in these brain-protective foods, SPECT scans often reveal improved activity, sharper focus, and greater emotional balance. What you eat becomes a daily act of brain repair. Every healthy meal sends the message, I love my brain, and I want it to thrive. But brain health isn't only about food. It's also about lifestyle choices that either strengthen or weaken it. Chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and lack of exercise can shrink brain volume and accelerate cognitive decline. To love your brain, you must also nurture your mind and body through rest, movement, and calm. Exercise increases oxygen flow and stimulates the release of growth factors that help neurons regenerate. Sleep allows the brain to detoxify and reset, clearing out waste that accumulates during the day. Meditation and gratitude reduce activity in stress-related regions, restoring balance and improving emotional stability. Every time you prioritize rest, movement, and mindfulness, you're giving your brain the environment it needs to stay young, sharp, and resilient. Another way to love your brain is to protect it from toxins and negative influences. Alcohol, nicotine, and recreational drugs reduce blood flow and damage neurons, but even smaller daily habits, like chronic multitasking, excessive screen time, or unrelenting worry can wear the brain down. Setting healthy boundaries, limiting exposure to negativity, and surrounding yourself with supportive, positive people are all ways of nourishing the brain emotionally. The brain responds to love, safety, and connection. When you engage in meaningful relationships and pursue purposeful activities, you strengthen the neural circuits associated with joy and fulfillment. Loving your brain also means showing it respect through curiosity and lifelong learning. Challenging your mind through reading, problem-solving, or creative expression helps build cognitive reserve, the brain's ability to stay strong and adaptable even as it ages. Learning something new sparks neuroplasticity, creating fresh connections that keep your brain active and alert. People who continue learning and engaging their curiosity throughout life often show higher brain activity and reduce risk of cognitive decline. Every day you have hundreds of small opportunities to love your brain, Each choice adds up to a powerful pattern that shapes your future. The way you eat, sleep, move, think, and connect determines how well your brain serves you in the years to come. When you feed it right and treat it with care, it rewards you with clarity, calm, creativity, and compassion. Loving your brain is the foundation for loving your life. Because when your brain works right, everything else in your world works better.